Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. Your host, JP John Poz. With me today, a BJJ practitioner, pro wrestler. He's a historian. He's an author. He covers pro wrestling. He covers everything from A to Z. Mr. Bryan Alvarez. Bryan, welcome in. How you doing?
I like how a BJJ practitioner was the first thing that you mentioned.
Yes.
I'm doing
Yes, come
well.
on. You still teach classes, right?
Oh yeah. Actually, I was lucky I could do this today because normally I'm teaching Thursday night, but not today.
Nice. Okay, good. I'm glad that I was able to sneak this in then. If your busy schedule, obviously. So what's going on in the world of the Figure Four Weekly? What's going on in the pro wrestling world?
Well, what's going on in the pro wrestling world today is looks like WrestleMania is likely going back to Vegas.
How did that happen? What the heck happened with New Orleans?
I could not tell you right now. The only thing that makes sense to me is they must have got like a really nice deal to go back. Good enough that, they had an agreement with New Orleans. I mean, everybody knew it was going to New Orleans. And to pull out at this point, my guess is they're probably going to have to make good to the city of New Orleans in some way, maybe financially. They did say they're going to be going back at some point for WrestleMania, but they must have got a really, really nice deal from Las Vegas to basically change the location of WrestleMania in the middle of the year. It's actually at least the fourth time that they have done a major venue change in the last, I guess, 5 months now, which is very unusual. But, they can make a lot of money to go to these cities, and they're a business, and they're publicly traded, and so they're gonna follow the money.
Why is that though? All of a sudden, like you said, obviously that's TKO doing this, and this is the last 4 or 5 months that made all these changes. Why is that? Is it literally they're just going after the highest bidder?
I mean, it's just the way that the TKO has been operating. I mean, if you look at UFC, it's the exact same way. I mean, they do everything in their power to maximize revenue, and WWE is in the middle of a boom period, the biggest boom period really ever. I mean, you kind of have to measure things a little bit differently because the way that people consume television now was compared to the 90s. I mean, we don't have 12 million people watching wrestling on Monday nights anymore. It's a fraction of that. But in terms of like actual money generated, you look at WrestleMania now, and every WrestleMania is the new biggest WrestleMania there's ever been. Just blows everything away. Although I would say, with the exception, because pay-per-view has also changed now that they're on Peacock, I'm not sure. I guess I could probably look it up, but the two John Cena versus The Rock WrestleManias were impossibly lucrative. I think they both generated over $60 million. But if you take out pay-per-view and look at what's WrestleMania generating nowadays, I mean, between ticket sales, I mean, they actually probably beat those two shows, because I think they were probably, I forget what the number was, but like tens of millions of dollars at the gate both nights, merchandise, everything else related to WrestleMania. I mean, it was a very, very lucrative show. They're making a lot of money.
Oh my God, yeah, it's crazy. Did they release the actual gates yet for Vegas for Mania? I don't know if they did or not.
I think I've seen it somewhere, but I can't remember off the top of my head. It was in the range of $20 million, somewhere around there. But it was, and the crazy thing is, people are buying these tickets. I mean,
yeah,
there have been a lot of complaints from fans of both WWE and UFC. Like, my God, these ticket prices are so expensive, and I really don't want to pay that much. And they're really upset. But the fact of the matter is, other people are willing to pay that money. And
yeah.
I will never forget. There was a post on social media. Randy Orton met these fans at WrestleMania. It's a Randy Orton, and you got to think about how much money this guy has after making millions and millions of dollars for years in WWE. And he asked his fans, like, what'd you pay for tickets? And I think they said something like $30,000 or something. And he's just like, what? Like, he can't even believe that anybody would pay $30,000 for these Mania tickets, but they paid. And as long as people keep paying, You should not expect them to willingly drop prices out of charity.
Yeah. There was something for SummerSlam. It was like a Kevin Nash suite slash
Yeah.
free whatever, and it was like 40 grand. And just for shits and giggles, I just looked it up to see if it was available, and it was sold out. I was like, what?
Oh yeah.
I was like, how is that for SummerSlam? I was like, oh my god, crazy.
And you know what's funny too is like there are people that just they have a lot of money, and this is I shouldn't say it's not a big deal because there's very few people on earth where 40 grand to meet Kevin Nash is not a big deal. But the funny thing is like some of these people that just go to event after event after event after event after event. I mean, they're not really wealthy. They just that's the thing that they do, and they're frugal with their money, and the show comes to town, and they do whatever they can do to get tickets and try and save a little bit, and they just it's really you think a certain type of people is going to be buying those really expensive tickets, and really it's not necessarily these people that just are multimillionaires. It's just a lot of them are average people that save their money, and WWE is their thing that they spend money on.
Yeah, true. I went to MSG back in March, sold out. There was 20,000 people there. But my tickets, we're not even in the hundreds. We're in the 200 section, and they were 175 each. And we got an amazing deal on one of those sites or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like where they tell you, oh, it's an amazing deal. I was like, wow, 175. I remember sitting way closer at MSG for Survivor Series 96. It wasn't even close to that much money. So it's just crazy for a random Raw. Obviously Punk in the cage is big, but it was like, man, to my son, I was like, I don't know how many more of these I can afford. They're just so expensive. It's so much for tickets now.
Well, they're also doing the pricing strategy where as soon as they put tickets on sale, they jack them up sky high, and they sell as many as they can. And then, as time goes by, you start to see the tickets drop. I didn't get credentialed for WrestleMania. And so, as we're getting closer, it's kind of like, are these tickets going to go down? Because like, I like going to WrestleMania and all, but I mean, I can watch it on television. I mean, I watch everything else on television. It's not like I have to be there. And, the tickets are, they were like $750 for like way up in the middle of nowhere. And I was like, man, I don't know if I want to pay $1,500 just to go watch WrestleMania. A subscriber and a friend of mine, Philip, ended up getting me in. So it worked out. But it wasn't until the day of the show that the very top of the building nosebleed seats, I mean, like touching the ceiling, they dropped to like $100. But I mean, up until then, they were still, I mean, these seats out in the middle of nowhere in this giant stadium, still going for like $700.
That's just absolutely crazy. But like you said, if somebody's willing to pay for it, you can't not sell it to them for that amount of money because somebody will pay for it. Crazy though, wrestling, man. Who would ever
it's
thought
quite
that?
popular,
right? Who would ever thought it was going to be like that type of money though, right? I mean, that just seems like crazy money.
It's pretty crazy money, yeah.
When you look at it too, it's almost like the build up to this WrestleMania is a little lackluster, but they're still able to make so much money and charge so much for the tickets. So is it just for the WrestleMania factor, or do you think there was something special this year about it, or what do you think? Or they're just so hot?
Well,
they just
I think that especially for like WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, I mean, you put tickets on sale, people are going to go. It's going to sell. I mean, they're never going to have an issue in the foreseeable future with the big shows. And even now, like the smaller shows, I mean, we really don't even have a lot of smaller shows. I guess Backlash would be considered a smaller show, but like Money in the Bank's considered a big show. I mean, people go. The thing with WWE nowadays, and it's actually the same thing with AEW as well, is the fans know that you're going to get a big card. And you don't know who's going to be on the big card, but it's not like you're going to buy tickets for WrestleMania and you're going to get a bunch of matches that seem unimportant. If you buy your ticket for an AEW pay-per-view, like they got a pay-per-view coming up this weekend, I mean, they never have anything less than like a really great pay-per-view. And so You don't know who's going to be on it. You don't know the matches, but you know that, all right, I'm going to buy this ticket for this pay-per-view. I'm going to get my money's worth. Less so AEW television, but, WWE's strength is they have, these people, they will buy tickets for TV expecting this is going to be a great show. I don't know who's going to be on it. WWE does a very good job. One of their strengths is, and part of it is because they have a brand split, It's like they have the top stars of Raw and they have the top stars of SmackDown. And with the exception of like Roman Reigns, the top stars from Raw are going to be on pretty much every Raw television show, unless they're injured, unless they get sent to Australia to do publicity or whatever, like Rhea Ripley did for a couple of weeks. When you buy the ticket, like, I'm going to see the top Raw stars. When you buy a ticket, you're going to see the top SmackDown stars. And they've gotten the wrestlers over so that, Raw's coming to town and people buy their ticket and they're going to see those guys. They're going to see those women. And, they've gotten people over and they've gotten their fans to believe that these wrestlers are stars. The matches are like kind of the cherry on top. You mentioned that the WrestleMania build was kind of, I think you said lackluster.
Yeah.
And to me, it was, and it also wasn't. The thing with me for WrestleMania is they moved it to late April. And so, they started building WrestleMania at the Royal Rumble in January. Yeah. And so, like, Jey Uso and Gunther, I mean, God, they had like 13 weeks. You knew that match was coming for 13 weeks. How much can you do with Jey Uso and Gunther? And like a lot of these stories, it was like, all right, well, we know this one's going to happen. So, it's just like a slow progression. And when it goes really slow, but what the end match is going to be, sometimes it's kind of like, all right, we could kind of speed this up a little bit. So I hope that I actually got a date for when I think next year's Mania is. And I think it's like the second week of April. This is not confirmed. It probably will be very soon. But the date I heard was April. Actually, it's April 18th and 19th. So again, it's going to be right around the third week of April. So we're probably going to have the same issue next year. They're going to do a Royal Rumble. You're going to know who's getting the title shot. And then it's going to be weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks of build. Fans are used to like a month because you got a month between pay-per-views. So having that 3 months of build, it can make it kind of seem like, a little slow going.
Yeah, that is true. You had that extra few weeks there, and it definitely felt like they were, drawing it out a bit with some of the storylines.
You have to. Just so much time.
Yeah,
the machine never stops.
Why later? Why are they doing later?
Well, this year they did later because Vegas paid them big money to do Easter weekend. Because Easter weekend, apparently, like, not a lot of people go to Vegas. And so the city of Vegas was like, once you bring WrestleMania, we'll get tons of tourists coming in on a weekend that we normally don't. We'll pay you $5 million or whatever for the site fee. And so they went. And so that was the date. So I could check when Easter is next year. I mean, maybe that's part of, the deal to bring them in 2 years in a row to Vegas. Easter 2026 is actually April 5th. So this time they're going to be running early. 2 weeks after Easter. So there you go.
Wow. It's interesting, though, the thought process, because usually late March, early April is when Mania usually is. So interesting little change-up that they'll do there for the money. Obviously, you got to do it for the money. TKO is bread and butter there. It's all about the profit, because back in the day, and even in that WrestleMania 9 documentary, even Vince was even more like for the fan friendly, where he's like, I don't want a $25 ticket, it's somewhere in the place. So even he was more like conscious of the fans than TKO is. They're more like diabolical.
Well, I don't know if diabolical would be the right word. You certainly could look at it that way, but I mean, they're business people, and they're gonna make their money.
I got to ask you this, because this is interesting to me. So The Rock, obviously, kind of, let's be honest, he ruined Mania quite a bit. But now he made that announcement about New Orleans, and it's not even going to be in New Orleans. So he's 0 for 2 right now, right? When you're looking at
I wouldn't say this New Orleans one was his fault, because I'm sure. I mean, when it was announced, I mean, that was the intention. But some of the stuff leading to Mania this year, I mean, I don't know if we'll ever know the full story of what happened, but it was certainly very bizarre. He showed up a few times. He teased some stuff. And then he ended up being the guy responsible in storyline for John Cena turning heel. And then he vanished. And, I mean, he wasn't there. And I mean, even he said, like, I watched WrestleMania. I saw Travis Scott come out, and I thought, man, people don't expect me to be there. And it's like, yeah, they sure did, brother. Where were you? And I don't know where he was. I don't know what the story was, but there's clearly something there.
Yeah, there's got to be. I mean, he did Pat McAfee 2 days later. He's just sitting there. He's like, I wasn't doing anything. I'm home. And you're like what the hell is going on with him? Something is up. Maybe him and H aren't getting along. Maybe is that
I don't know if
possible?
not getting along is the but I mean it's very well they may not be getting along. Certainly that's what, people have rumored. I don't know anything about that, but I mean, they have had a rivalry dating back to the 90s. And Hunter he's Vince McMahon right now, and he's got a lot of power, and The Rock is on the board, and he's got a lot of power. And, you got two guys like that, and, sometimes they both have ideas. And, if you're a Nick Khan or Ari Emanuel or whoever, I mean, you sort of have to make a decision like, well, what are we going to do here? I mean, Hunter, he does book long-term storylines. And it's kind of funny because, if you look at The Rock over the last probably year and a half or so, it's like Rock is sort of the new Vince McMahon in the sense that you got something planned out, and then Dwayne shows up, and he's got an idea, and then, well, here we go. Got to change some stuff around. And that's exactly, it was much worse with Vince because he would do it every Monday and every Friday and just screw everything up regularly. At least Rock kind of just like steps in and kind of throws a monkey wrench in, only sparingly. But it's definitely weird.
To me too, and I may be crazy in this, but Cena without The Rock is kind of like, especially the way they set it up, was almost like pointless, or he is pointless without The Rock, because it's like you needed the three of those guys together. Even though Travis Scott, I mean, that's just an abomination, but that's a different story for a different day. But like, if the three guys aren't together, a nut shot and a horrible mist of a belt shot is the finish without The Rock. I mean, it just seems so like, I don't know, maybe Triple H couldn't have done anything better booking wise, but I just felt like there could have been a better finish for that, knowing that The Rock wasn't going to be there. Like, if it's three guys and Rock is one of them and he's the one that's kind of the one pulling the strings, right? I mean, am I crazy on that, or thinking like maybe they should have called an audible?
And the thing, it wasn't even so much the finish to me. It was just more so, and this is an ongoing thing. The original idea was apparently that John Cena was going to turn heel at WrestleMania. Okay. So it would be, leading up to Mania, John Cena's a babyface, Cody Rhodes a babyface, talking about this 17th title, everybody's cordial. And then WrestleMania comes and, he turns heel and wins the title. So, they changed everything in Elimination Chamber. Like a couple days before the show, it was like, you're turning heel here. And, Cena was sort of like, all right, well, whatever. And so what happened was everything they had planned leading to Mania was now changed. Now John Cena's a heel. And so the road to WrestleMania with John Cena as a heel, I thought it sucked because like John Cena he's just the old, it's because of the fans. And he's bringing up all this stuff that these fans did in like 2007, 2008. Right. You guys booed me. I did everything for children, blah, blah, blah. And the problem is, this would have been a great heel promo in 2010, but it wasn't 2010. It was 2025, and John Cena had been around for a decade. He hadn't been booed in years. Yep. I mean, every time he'd come back over the last 5-10 years, people loved him, got into him. So he's out there cutting this promo, and it's like you're gaslighting the fans. You fans, blah blah. And the fans had been like behind him for a decade. So that was weird. But I thought, you know what? This wasn't supposed to happen like this. So let's get to Mania, do the finish, and then we'll get what was supposed to happen with John Cena. Instead, it's the same promo every time. You fans! I've heard this promo so many times, and it's just the John Cena heel turn is not working for me, And even like, as they were doing the Cena deal, you had the thing with R-Truth, and it's like, you know what? One of these days, John Cena is going to attack Truth, and there's going to be so much heat, and they're going to be able to at least do something out of that. And instead, what they did is he attacked him at a press conference on the internet, in front of a bunch of reporters who, like, for once in their lives made no noise whatsoever. And he just puts this guy through a table to deathly silence. And it's like, that's the angle you did with R-Truth. And then it's like R-Truth does one interview and they're wrestling at Saturday night's main event. And it's kind of, you're wasting one of John Cena's last matches on what could have been like a pretty good little program with him and R-Truth, based on years of R-Truth saying, John Cena was a childhood hero. And instead it's just been kind of like, nah, whatever. It's a match on a show.
Yeah, to me, the actual turn Elimination Chamber is awesome, and then everything after that, it's been awful. Just like it hasn't been working. He's wearing the same stuff. They're still like selling the same merch. It's like the same old, same old. Oh, but he has a black entrance, and it just says his name. And he wears his title backwards. It's like none of it works. His promos aren't very good. It almost seems like he's playing a character instead of really like playing himself. It just none of it. His heel stuff is working at all. It's a total miss.
No, it doesn't feel real at all. And part of the problem with John Cena, I mean, he's very successful. He's a Hall of Famer. He's an all-time great. But he is very robotic. And you don't ever really feel like you're seeing the actual John Cena. But now it's even more so. Now it feels like the robot is playing a bad guy robot. And like there's not for 1 second do you feel like he's really a bad guy. I mean, I had all sorts of ideas for him turning heel. It's like, there's so many things you could do. Like you bring back, I hated that spinner belt. I know a lot of people did, bring back that spinner belt, bring back Doctor of Thugonomics or something. He's got his social media where he's always doing the, don't give up. Here's my motivational, inspirational quote for the day.
Yes.
I thought, why don't you switch those around? Like, tell people, don't bother getting up this morning. Stay home from work. Quit. There's all these things he can do. And instead it's like, nope, he's the same robot, but now he's yelling at the fans. So it feels very, I don't know. All those years we wanted John Cena to turn heel, and he finally did. And it's just not much.
It's almost like you got the blueprint when Hulk Hogan turned to the Hollywood Hogan. He turned heel, completely changed everything. Even the way he's selling like he's a chicken shit, like just everything. The beard, he goes all black. Like you had a blueprint there. You can kind of study a little bit of history here and kind of go in that direction. And you're right. He's literally the same exact guy, except for he's pretending to be mad at the fans and he's yelling a lot. It's just,
I think part of it too is I think probably in his mind, he's thinking like, I don't want to be like a popular heel. I don't want to be a cool heel that people are going to like because I'm trying to actually be a heel. A good example, actually, if you watch AEW, is John Moxley. Like John Moxley is a great heel. And he's like such a great heel that you hear fans say like, God, I don't want to watch this guy anymore. Can someone please beat this guy? Like, why is he the champion? And they don't understand that like that's what you're supposed to feel about a heel. You're supposed to want to see Samoa Joe beat John Moxley. You're supposed to want to see the Hangman beat John Moxley. You want somebody to beat the guy up. And people have forgotten what it means to be a heel. And so John Moxley is going back to like a way old school heel. Like he doesn't do anything cool. Like he put that belt in a briefcase and like it legitimately made people mad. Like, why don't we get to see the belt? And it's like his goal is to make you want to see somebody dethrone him. Who's it going to be? We build up this baby face. He beat him. Now the people are mad. Who's next? So like that's an effective heel. And so I think John Cena's idea, I don't think he took it from Moxley, but I think his idea is the same thing. It's like, I don't want to be the heel that everybody is cheering. I don't want to be the heel that everybody thinks is cool. I don't want to be cool. I want to be a bad guy. But the issue is by not changing anything, it's like he's not a cool heel and he's also not really a hated heel. He's just sort of, well, we boo him. We don't really not like him. He's still John Cena. He's playing a character. There's nothing organic about it. There's nothing. So I don't know what the answer is, but this isn't it.
Definitely not. And it's like, Orton wasn't going to beat him. Although I did like that match. Orton did a great job. I just like, Orton's not winning. Truth's not winning. So it's a little predictable too, a little ho-hum, at least with Moxley. I actually thought Joe was possibly going to win. Like they were possibly going to, make a change. Even I thought Swerve was going to win at the last pay-per-view.
Yeah, a lot of people did. And like for me, I think the story is obviously ends at All In, their biggest show of the year. Somebody defeats Moxley there. So like all of those matches, I fully expected that Moxley was going to retain, but I was really amazed at how many people thought Swerve's going to beat this guy on this pay-per-view. Joe's going to beat this guy. And like they convinced themselves that in their minds, this Death Riders thing wasn't working. And so they've got to take the belt off this guy because it's just not working for me. Not realizing that it not working for you is the point. Like you're supposed to want somebody to dethrone this guy. And if you actually watch all of like Moxley's, I mean, his segments do very well in the ratings. The matches, sometimes they start off without a lot of heat because it's like a 5-hour show and they follow some crazy match with Will Ospreay. But the fans always get into the match. It always builds to that one big near fall where all the fans buy it, like, this is it, Swerve's got him here. And then something happens and they get mad. I mean, it's actually very, very well done. And I do think that people are going to look back at his run and the Death Riders and kind of go, yeah, I think that actually worked really well, in fact. And business is up. I mean, AEW is doing better. Their viewership is up and their crowds are up. That beach break where it was him and Joe in the cage, they had double the attendance of the last time they were in the same city. They doubled their attendance. So like they've had a turnaround, and it's with the guy on top that everybody insists it's not working. It actually is working.
It's almost like that old school heel thing. You pay to watch the guy lose, and people keep maybe paying to watch him lose. Oh, it's going to be this week, so I have to go to this show. He's going to lose this week. I want to be there.
It's a very, very old school reaction that people have long since forgotten about, because really we've had cool heels since at least, the NWO. And, it goes back further than that, obviously, but that was like, a lot of my generation. Those were the first like cool heels, the NWO and then DX and, all of, I mean, you can go all the way through these. Even Randy Orton at points, he was a heel that people thought was awesome. I mean, everyone has grown up with the heel's got to be cool. We got to like seeing the heel. And in reality, that's not what it's supposed to be. You're supposed to like seeing the babyface. You're supposed to want to see a babyface defeat this heel and win the title and take it out of that briefcase.
I know I was rooting for Joe. I was thinking, like, oh, maybe do the switch here. Joe is so over, but
he is actually. I heard on Wednesday's show from people that were there that Joe was the most over guy on the show. I mean, people really, really like Samoa Joe.
Just from watching it and listening to it, it seemed like, even especially after the promo he cut, it seemed like he was the most over guy to me on the show.
Yep,
he's always been the best to me. I mean, I think he's amazing, but obviously it's not his time. They're building maybe Ospreay winning it at All In. And obviously they're building to somebody else. I actually thought Darby might be coming back, but I guess not.
Well, he'll be back at some point. I wouldn't be surprised. I actually wouldn't be surprised if Darby returned at All In and helped either Hangman or Ospreay beat Moxley, because Moxley is the guy that put Darby out of action. He hasn't been around since they pushed him down those stairs. And so, if you watch AEW, I mean, they have a lot of, it's kind of like a mix, actually. It's like some of the stuff is really good. They got really long-term things that pay off down the road. And then there's other things that, where did that come from? Like, why? But the Darby one,
yes.
And I expect at the pay-per-view, at Double or Nothing, that Eddie Kingston will return, because right now it's 7-on-6, and I expect probably the return of Eddie Kingston, and Gabe Kidd's the one that he was injured in that match with Gabe Kidd, so it actually makes sense for Gabe Kidd to return, and then Eddie Kingston shows up to take out. So that's like a long-term deal, and I think there'll be a similar long-term payoff with Darby and Moxley. So I actually wouldn't be surprised if Darby helped cost Moxley the title. And then we have John Moxley versus Darby Allin in Seattle for the annual Seattle show. And Darby gets a big win over him then for revenge for John Moxley ending the career of Bryan Danielson in his hometown.
I feel like AEW's booking is not great. Maybe you should be joining the committee there. You seem like you kind of maybe are have better ideas sometimes than what they put
Well,
in.
I don't know about better ideas, but I mean, there's some people think that I also think that AEW's booking sucks, and I don't think it sucks at all, but I do think that Tony's got a lot of ideas that are in his head, and I think that sometimes he does not do a great job reminding people necessarily of those ideas, or they have done a much better job lately with video packages. You know, It's funny. It's funny. About 3 years ago, I think it was, this would have been like 2020 or 2021. There was like this big poll, and I can't remember where it was, but like a lot of people voted. And the poll was, which promotion tells better stories? Is it WWE or AEW? Okay. Now, whatever you think about WWE and AEW today, everything was very different in 2020 and 2021, which I think is when this poll was. Because at the time, Vince was in charge, and there was no storytelling, okay? He would book an angle on Raw. They would do an entire lineup for the next week's show. They'd list 5 matches for next week's Raw. And then next week's Raw would happen, and like maybe one of the matches would take place. Because over the course of the week, after announcing these matches, this dude would show up, he'd tear up the script up, change this, change that. And so like every week you would watch this show and nothing ever made sense. And meanwhile, this was very early on in AEW, and there was a smaller roster. There was less TV. And so Tony was way more on his game. It was like you'd have the same guys in every show. You'd have these storylines, they would take place, sequentially to build up matches. And at the time, I remember thinking, like, this is going to be like 100-0. Like, of course, AEW does better stories than WWE. WWE doesn't even do stories. Well, WWE won this poll. And I remember at the time, I was baffled. I was absolutely baffled because I was thinking, like, do you guys not watch the shows? I mean, are these anti-AEW fans that just voted for WWE for whatever reason? Like, how could you possibly vote for WWE in like 2021 as far as better storytelling? There is no storytelling. But then I figured it out because it really hit me when I was watching some pay-per-view and there was a match. Doesn't matter who it was. Let's just say it was Randy Orton and John Cena. And the build to the match had just been stupid. I mean, there was no build. There was no story. Vince tore up the script every week. And so, all of this stupid stuff would happen. It didn't make any sense whatsoever. But whoever made the video package for that match on pay-per-view, they had found a way to like make it make sense. And I remember watching it and I was like, that is very impressive that you found a way to take this absolutely stupid 4 weeks of television and you figured out how to make a video package where it actually seemed like it made sense. And so I kind of started paying attention, and I would notice it didn't matter how stupid the booking was for any particular feud. These people putting the video packages together before the matches, because if you watch a WWE pay-per-view, it's like they got like a 7-minute video package before all these matches or whatever. And I would watch these and I would go, wow, that I got to give you credit for the package you put together there. And that's when it hit me that if you watch the weekly television, especially in that era for WWE, it was terrible, absolutely terrible. But they hired really smart people who were able to put these video packages together where if you watch them as a fan, like a lot of people, I mean, you could see if you looked at like the year-over-year decline of Raw and SmackDown, I mean, people were they just gave up on television. They were not watching Raw. They were not watching SmackDown, but they would watch the pay-per-views because they were on Peacock or the network or whatever for, $9.99 or $4.99. And they'd watch these video packages and they'd be like, wow, that's great storytelling. And then you're watching AEW and they don't do video packages. You're expected to remember. They book a thing. You got to remember, hey, this happened on this show with these two guys 3 months ago. Now it's paying off on this show. You got to pay close attention to figure out these stories. And so that's when it really hit me. That's the difference. And even to this day, WWE, they do a big angle at the beginning of Raw. You're going to see a replay at the top of the hour. You're going to see a replay at the top of the second hour or the third hour. They're going to hammer it home. They're going to open the next show with it. And they're going to hammer their stories home to you. And that's what gets the storylines over. That's what gets the angles over. That's what gets the superstars over. That's what works. And they've done a much better job in the last probably 2-3 months in AEW. There's a lot more video packages. And I think that is what has been missing from AEW for a long time is, I get it, Tony, that you understand. I get it that it's in your head, but people don't watch every show. Even the people that do tune in every Wednesday or even Raw and SmackDown, it's like the people that watch Raw and SmackDown, they don't watch all 3 hours. They may watch the first hour and the second hour. They may tune in an hour late. You've got to presume that, number one, everybody who watches your show is watching it for the first time. And number two, they might have missed the first hour. They might be getting ready to turn the show off. They might have missed the last half of last week's show. You've got to tell the stories. Just like a movie, a sequel will open with a big, this is what happened in the last movie. TV show, this is what happened in the last episode. They all do it. There's nothing wrong with wrestling doing it. I don't even watch a lot of sports, but they'll do video packages and personality profiles and stuff like that on sporting events. I mean, you've got to do that. And I think that's one of the reasons that AEW has done a little better of late is they've done a better job telling their stories, recapping, reminding, video package. You got to do that for your fans.
Totally agree. Like if I'm watching Mobland or the new show on Paramount, they reminded me what happened last year. It was like, oh yeah, and then then they start this week's episode. So AEW's definitely gotten better with that. That is so true. Yeah, you don't even really realize it, but they were like anti-video package for a while.
Yeah, and even when you think about it, let's think of like Lord of the Rings. Okay, 3 movies. All right.
Yep.
Who's going to go to the third movie who hasn't watched the first? There's only 3 movies, right? You would think, okay, The Return of the King is coming out. If you've never watched The Lord of the Rings, you're probably going to go back and watch the first 2 movies, right? Yep. Well, all 3 of those movies open with a recap. This was the key thing that happened in the last movie. This was a flashback to something that happened in the last movie. So if you, for some reason, decided you're going to jump into the third movie without watching the first 2, they bring you up to speed at the beginning. But even if you watch the first 2, they still brought you up to speed in that third movie. So movies do it, TV shows do it, sporting events do it. Every wrestling company on the face of the planet from the beginning of time has done it. I mean, it's just what has to be done.
Now, how come you said some people think that you think AEW sucks sometimes? Like, is that because you're being too honest? Is that the problem?
Well, I mean, there's 2 reasons. Number one, I do a lot of shows. And, when people clip things that I say, they have a tendency to clip things like, oh, Brian, Barry's Tony Khan's booking. And then, that goes up on the internet. And there's a lot of things about WWE that I like. There's a lot of things about WWE I don't like. There's a lot of things about AEW I like. And there are things about AEW that I don't like. And because it's the internet, people like to ignore the things that you like, and they like to make a big deal out of the things that you don't like. So if you go online, if you Google my name and AEW, I mean, you'll see all of these clips of, Brian buried this, Brian buried that, Brian made fun of this, Brian made fun of that. But what you don't see is, man, Brian loved this show. Brian thought this was a great go-home show. Brian thought this match was awesome. So there's a lot of that. And also, honestly, I mean, I do a lot of interview shows like this, and people presume, or people maybe don't like AEW so much, and those are the questions they ask. And so I'm going to tell you what I think. And so, if you throw me the line, hey, what do you think about those lack of video packages? Well,
Right,
you're going to
right,
get a
yeah.
10-minute speech on, I wish they had more video packages. And you won't get the 10-minute speech on, my God, that Hangman and Will Ospreay segment at the beginning of Dynamite last night was like 1,000 stars. It was awesome. It's just the way things are on the internet. So,
do you think that they were doing that like promo battle almost to be a little WWF-esque or WWE-esque? Like they'll open the show with promo stuff. Do you think that they're trying to maybe show that their guys can do that too? Like show their range a little bit? They're not just a wrestling company. These guys can cut good promos too. Do you think that was a part of it?
I don't think so. I feel that the MJF Hurt Syndicate stuff, that's way more WWE centric, because you've got, I mean, they literally were every week, it's going to be a segment with MJF and the Hurt Business. And I mean, you could pick almost any feud, and it's like, well, Kenny Omega wasn't on the show last week, but he'll be on the show next week. This one is like, it was a sequential story. There was a different piece every week. That's how WWE does it. I don't know if people remember this, but like when AEW first started, everybody remembers all of the matches because they worked a different style, and people would say, the indie style, whatever. But what people forget is that one of the big strengths of AEW early was the promos, because in 2019, 2020, that was the Vince McMahon era. And Vince was a maniac, and he would script these things, and you had to read these lines, and you couldn't say these words, and you had to say these words. And these promos were just like, people hated them. Like, there were a few people that could overcome it. Kevin Owens, he's always going to be a good promo. You can give him a script, he'll make it work. Guys like that. But in general, it's like probably 70% of the WWE promos just sucked. And what happened with AEW is they didn't do scripted promos. They said, hey, go out there. This is what we're going to talk about. Do it. And so really one of the big strengths of AEW early was those talking segments back and forth, because they weren't the scripted, lame WWE promos that they did at the time. Now, things have kind of changed a little bit. You still get good promos in AEW. Like the best talkers in AEW they're awesome. But you've got a lot more leeway in WWE now. I mean, they got guys they trust to just go out there and not necessarily wing it, but like if Seth Rollins and CM Punk are out there, they're not both reading from a script. They were given a script, but they've got leeway to make it their own. And so you get much, much better promos in WWE nowadays. So you could sort of, if you've watched a lot of WWE of late and then you see that segment, you can go like, oh, they're copying WWE. But in reality, that's what AEW always did. They had these strong talking segments where people just were allowed to go out there and just do their promo, which sometimes did not, especially the whole thing with Hangman and Punk. I mean, we had some problems because of that, but that was always one of their strengths.
I feel like I was watching the Knicks blow it or whatever, so I watched Dynamite afterwards, but I feel so many people were saying how great Paige Ospreay was. So I was like, I'm not fast forwarding. I want to watch this whole thing. I want to watch it. And not that I didn't know Ospreay was a good promo. I feel like maybe an underrated promo, but I would feel like, man, that was really good. I knew Paige was a good talker, but I was like, wow, it's really kind of invested in Ospreay. Just, I don't know. He got me excited for that match more than I was even excited for it before. I feel like he went above and beyond for that promo.
Well, the funny thing is, that's another thing that it's an internet thing. It's like when Ospreay was going to go, is he going to go to WWE? Is he going to go to AEW? The one thing that people always said was, well, he does a lot of flips, but like he's going to have to talk. Like they thought that he couldn't do promos. Yeah, but if you followed Ospreay's career, I mean, he did. I mean, he's done promos in every promotion, and he did promos in New Japan. He did promos in all over Europe, all those different promotions, and maybe you could question, well, what if he went to WWE and he's given the script or whatever? But I was never worried about him if he went to AEW, because he is a very good talker. And I don't even know if promo is the right word, because he really doesn't do promos. His it's not even a gimmick. That's Will Ospreay. He's just he's just a guy. He's a friendly bloke, and he can let that out on television. And I think that's one of the reasons that, people gravitate to him so much. I mean, it's not because he does a lot of flips. It's not because, obviously, doing great matches and all these awesome high spots. I mean, that's an important thing. But if you watch his matches, I mean, the people really get into the matches, not when he's doing, they'll get into it for like the crazy high spots and everything. But you beat that guy down and then he starts firing up. That's when they go crazy. That's old school. It's just a baby face firing up and not even doing anything. And he does his promos and he's so good. He is good at being real. He is the anti-John Cena. John Cena is professional. He does great promos as well, but it is a John Cena professional wrestler. That's what you're going to get. And same with Cody. Whereas, with Ospreay, it very much feels real because it is. That's the guy.
Yeah, to me, I was always kind of surprised, like some of the knocks on him, which is crazy because if you watch his match, he literally has good matches with anybody and everybody. You pull somebody out of the crowd, probably gonna have a good match. It's just crazy. But his promos, which I do like, and when he was IWGP World Champion, I interviewed him. I was like, man, like he's such a good talker. We're going back and forth. He's telling me he's Billy Goat and all sorts of stuff, and he was really, really good. But I was kind of always impressed with his selling. Like, oh, he doesn't sell enough. I'm like, no, he's like a really good seller. He kind of like the best seller, really.
I had this idea a long time ago about how to train wrestlers. And my idea was basically like, you teach them how to bump and everything like that. And then at the beginning, they're only allowed to punch and kick. So essentially, they have to learn to put an entire match together with only 2 offensive moves. You can punch and you can kick. So how do you do a shine at the beginning? How do you put the psychology of the match together? How do you do your comeback? Plus, you learn to punch and kick really well. So that was kind of my idea. Like the first 6 months, that's all you're allowed to do. Take bumps, sell, punch, and kick. That's it. Don't worry about moves. Don't worry about your stupid entrance. Just like learn to tell a story with nothing and learn to bump and learn to sell. And then after 6 months, okay, now we can start putting some moves in there. And I bring that up because there was that famous, I think it was Will Ospreay and Ricochet, and they did that wacky high spot, and it got all over the internet, and everybody made fun of it. Like, this is ridiculous. It's not wrestling. It's acrobatics. It's gymnastics, and it goes all over the place. And like a generation of people that had never seen a Will Ospreay match were like, all he does is flips. Same thing with the Young Bucks. They do some preposterous spot, which they'll do here and there. Goes all over online. Oh, flippy guys, mud show, blah, 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 blah. But the thing with the Young Bucks and Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega, and like these guys that over the years have kind of gotten this rep of, they're just flippy guys or whatever. If you watch their matches and you don't watch the high spots, okay? Ignore the high spots. Watch the match. Watch their shine at the beginning. Watch how they get cut off. Watch how they sell. Watch how they fire up. Watch how they make their comeback. Watch their give and take. Watch how they sell for their opponent. Watch how they bump and feed the whole 9. If you watch the Young Bucks and you just take all the moves out and just watch their matches, they're the greatest tag team I've ever seen. And I've seen pretty much every great tag team there's ever been. They are absolutely incredible. And if you look at Will Ospreay, if you look at Kenny Omega, it is the exact same thing. Ignore all the moves. Just watch the fundamental professional wrestling that these guys do. Watch the fundamental tag team wrestling that the Young Bucks do. They are absolutely incredible. And not only are they incredible, but teams like FTR, they're incredible as well. There's all sorts of incredible tag teams. But everybody has their best match with these people. Everybody who has wrestled Will Ospreay, best match they've ever had. Everybody has wrestled Kenny Omega. It's the best match they've ever had. every tag team that's wrestled the Young Bucks. It's like the best match they ever had. I mean, everybody talks about Bret Hart and Tom McGee, the famous Bret Hart-Tom McGee match.
Yeah.
Bret Hart has this match with this dude. He's a big, jacked-up guy. He sucks. But Bret Hart is so good that he gets this like great match out of this guy. And so Vince decides, oh, he's my next Hulk Hogan. He's just decided this guy is great. Well, it turns out Tom McGee, God bless him, he sucks. And he could never recreate that. And I do not want to say that Private Party sucks. That's not what I'm saying here, okay? But that match with the Young Bucks and Private Party, okay? Private Party been around for 5 years. And some ups, some downs. They were fine, whatever. So they end up having this match with the Young Bucks. And it's on pay-per-view. And the Young Bucks are going to beat them. That's the plan. And then the Young Bucks are going to move on. And there's, 3 or 4 teams Tony's considering, like, maybe this team will beat him, maybe that team, whatever. So they go in there and they have this match, and it is freaking unbelievable. It is absolutely unbelievable. And the match is over, and Tony Khan is Vince McMahon. He goes, putting the belts on Private Party. They are freaking incredible. And so he, tosses plans, and they started this feud with the Young Bucks and Private Party again. And Private Party wins the titles. And it's another incredible match. And the second match is even better than the first. Because when the second match is over, it was so good that I watched that match and I just thought, everyone always talks about star-making performance. You made a star in one night, blah, blah, blah. That was absolutely this match. Private Party looked like the best team on earth. And it was like, oh my God, he better follow up on this. And here I'm going again, I don't dislike Tony or AEW. He did not follow up. And they totally dropped the ball. And it's part of it was booking, but a part of it was also Private Party never had a match even close to that ever again with anybody. And so it was the same thing. They had a match with the Young Bucks, and it was the best match they ever had multiple times. Every best match they've ever had has been with the Young Bucks. And again, they do crazy high spots. They do cool moves, but that's not what it is. That's a part of it, but it's also their ability as a tag team. Same thing with the Briscoes. I remember watching the Briscoes in 2007, 2008, and it was all they did was flips. And it was true, They had no psychology. They did crazy moves. They did crazy flips. And years later, I think I had, I think it was Jay on the show, actually, one of the Briscoes. And, we were talking about it. And even he was like, yeah, we sucked. 2007, 2008. I can't even watch that stuff. It's horrible. But what happened was they kept doing tag matches. They faced better teams. And so, in the end, I think they're a Hall of Fame team because from about, 2013 on, I never saw a bad match with the Briscoes. I mean, it didn't matter. I saw a match they had at Defy with a local team. It was they could have gone out there and just done a good match. Everybody would have been happy. Dude, they were out there like it was Final Battle. They had this absolutely just incredible match. They were such an incredible team. But of course, they were another team that, they do a lot of flips and they do, all these crazy moves. No, they were an incredible tag team. So I just wanted to get that speech out there about those guys because they are incredible wrestlers.
Omega, great. I can't wait for Omega Okada again. I mean, that's just great. I feel like some of those guys in AEW, I don't know, for some reason get painted in certain lights, and then when you actually watch them, and it's not actually true. If you watch Omega Ospreay, those two classics that they're amazing, and it's not high spot crazy stuff. It's selling, a lot of of real good wrestling. And forget it, Okada to me is one of the best. I know AEW maybe he isn't going full bore, but he's one of the best ever to me.
Okada, before he went to AEW, I was convinced he was the best wrestler I've ever seen. Yeah, and maybe he is, but he hasn't been of late. But he had that match in the Continental Classic, which was incredible. The finals of the Continental Classic. And so I believe that him and Omega at All In is going to be like a Tokyo Dome main event caliber match. He will bring it for that match. Then he'll go back to falling off the top rope again and landing on his feet for the elbow.
Yes. I don't know. Maybe injured or something. I don't know. Maybe something.
Nah, he's there. Just, he made his money. And even when he was the best in the world, he still was a very, very smart worker. I mean, even when he was in New Japan and he was in his prime, I remember I got a treadmill, and I like to walk on the treadmill and watch matches. And I was watching this Okada match one day, and I'm walking on the treadmill, and about 8 minutes, let's say 8 minutes into this match, I suddenly realized, like, Okada's actually done nothing in this match. He's done absolutely nothing. And I was like, I'm going to watch this match, and I'm going to see how long I can walk before he's working harder than me. And I walked, and literally it was 20 minutes before he moved into his next gear. But then when he moved into his next gear, it's like this place was going wild for this match. And it was an incredible match. And that's always been his thing. He is a very, very, very smart worker. And he's best in longer matches. So most of his TV matches, they only go like 9 minutes. And so he's not even close to his 20 minutes before he turns it into second gear. But, when he has a 30-minute, 40-minute, when he's got time, I mean, he's absolutely incredible. But even then, he doesn't do anything crazy. I remember in it was probably 2019 or so when everybody in New Japan was beat up. I mean, Naito was a mess. Everybody you looked at, arms smaller, she's a hunt, blah, blah, blah. And I remember talking to somebody there and they were like, literally the only person here who is not banged up is Okada. And he was like the IWGP heavyweight champion. He was carrying the promotion. And they were like, he's the only guy not beat up. And, at some point he had a back injury or whatever. But, in general, it was like he was the healthiest guy on the New Japan roster because he was such a smart worker.
So true. And the Tanahashi matches to me are amazing, especially the Tokyo Dome.
Incredible.
So much good selling. I actually like them better than the Omega Okada matches just because I love how it's slower and longer. Well, not longer, but just slower. And the selling is more and more emotion. Like when Okada loses that one match, he's literally crying. And then the next year he gets his revenge. I love stuff like that where it's a little bit slower and a little bit more drawn out. And you really have to get emotionally invested into it. So those two are the best. That's my favorite feud, I think, Okada and Tanahashi.
Well, with Tanahashi, it's like I grew up watching Shawn Michaels, and he's just one of the best ever. And I would always watch his matches, and I was a wrestler, and everyone my age, our goal was, God, if only he could work like Shawn Michaels. He was so smooth, and he was so great, and everything he did looked awesome, and it looked so effortless, and we never could. But I remember always watching it, and I always thought somebody's got to come along that's at least close to Shawn Michaels.
Right.
And Dolph Ziggler, he came along and he kind of did the Shawn Michaels thing, but he was never Shawn. And Jericho's incredible, but he's not Shawn Michaels. And I was always just who? Somebody's got to be that smooth and that and there are two of them that I've seen in my lifetime besides Shawn Michaels. And one is Nick Jackson and one is Tanahashi. Those are the two guys, not so much Tanahashi now because he's all banged up, but those are two guys that when you watch them work, they are so good and they make it look, that's the thing, they make it look so easy. You just feel, I could go in there with this person and we would have a great match. That's what you feel watching. Anybody could go in there and have a great match with these three guys and it would be so easy and you wouldn't get hurt and you would, that's Nick Jackson, Shawn Michaels, and Tanahashi are those three guys that they're just, everything they do is, it looks good. It looks like they don't even have to expend energy. They don't even have to try. They're just complete naturals at this pro wrestling thing.
So true. So as we hit the wind down here and head towards the finish here, love listening to you and Dave. I don't know why Dave's getting heat. Is it the old heads? Is it the guys?
I don't know. There's always got to be something. You know what it is? Why? It's Twitter. He responds on Twitter. I'm trying to get him to not do that. That's the worst thing you can do is respond to eggs on Twitter.
Yeah, sometimes I notice, which is so funny. I was like, "You're like the number one journalist, for MMA and wrestling, pretty much of all time," and you're responding to some guy who doesn't even have a picture. It's like what?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
why? Like, but
Well, he
he must be
says
so
it's free.
annoyed.
Like he works all day, and then to him, that's like kind of his break. I'm gonna
Oh,
go,
okay.
yell at an egg on Twitter, and I always think like there's got to be a better usage of that relaxing time than yelling at some egg on Twitter. Like at least go to our board and answer some questions or something. Not
Yeah.
some geek with an egg for an avatar.
Yeah, I always laugh at that. I'm like, man, it's like he should be responding to this. I don't know, somebody with like 100,000 followers, or somebody like really like with influence.
Well,
Nope,
most of those people don't say crazy things.
right, that is true. Yeah, that
Yeah.
is true. And they don't know anything either, which is another thing for another day. But where can everybody kind of follow you, and see what you're up to lately?
Well, the best place to go is WrestlingObserver.com. And we have a whole bunch of different. I mean, I can't tell you. I've done 15,000 podcasts over the last 20 years. So
Wow.
I mean, we post 80 podcasts a month, 83, something like that. So if you're a fan of podcasts, WrestlingObserver.com is a place to go. And you can also get the Wrestling Observer newsletter there. So the main site has all of the shows and all of the archives. So anything you've ever wanted to listen to, learn about. I'm a big fan of Backlash 2008. Well, hey, we got a review for you in the archives. I mean, anything. Observers back to 1992. That's all at WrestlingObserver.com. And you guys can use a special link here if you've never subscribed. It is f4wonline.com/new. That's f4wonline.com/new. And you can get half off and try everything out. Listen to the podcast, read the Observers, and if you enjoy it, obviously you can stick around. And if you only want podcasts, we have Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. And all three of them are $9.99 a month. You get all of the podcasts. On the YouTube, you obviously get video as well. And those are all F4W Online followed by whatever it is. So f4wonline.com/Apple, f4wonline.com/Spotify, f4wonline.com/YouTube. $9.99. You get all the podcasts. And those are the best places to find us. And Apple Podcasts has a free trial, so you can try it out absolutely free. And this would be a good weekend to do it because there's, I think, about 24 shows over the next 4 days that we're going to try to recap in one form or another.
Sometimes it's too much. Sometimes.
Yes, it is.
But Bryan, thank you so much for all the time today. Love hearing you talk wrestling. So great to have you on. Thank you so much.
Well, I really appreciate it, and hopefully we can do it again someday. I'm glad we made this work.